Hello, students. Today we are going to talk about the addition property of equality. So the first thing that we need to understand is this word addition. And I'm sure most of us know that that just means that we are adding. What the addition property of equality says is that if you add a number to one side of an equation, you have to add it to the other side for it to still be correct. So let's first look at an example. If I had the equation 5 equals 5, so it's an equation because there's an equal sign in there. 5 is equal to 5, we know that's true. If I added 1 on this side, it's equal to 6, but if I didn't add it on the other side, it would only be 5. Is 6 equal to 5? So we have to add we have to add the same number to both sides. So if we add 1 to one side, we have to do it on the other side of the equal sign. Now, that was just a simple example using numbers, and that's pretty easy to tell whether you're doing something right or not because it's just got values. We can look at this and say 5 is equal to 5, and 6 is not equal to 5. But now we're going to actually add some variables in here. So let's look at our first example. So the first example says solve x minus 7 equals negative 6. We can look at this, and this is kind of one of those easier problems where you can say, okay, I have to have a number that I'm taking 7 away from it, and whatever that number is should give me negative 6. The additive property of equality says that if I add a number to one side of the equation, I need to add it to both sides of the equation. So we're going to go ahead and split this equation in half from the equal sign, and that will make it a little bit easier. So on one side, we have x minus 7. And on the other side of the equation, we have negative 6. X is our variable. And that is what we need to solve for. So we need to isolate the variable or get x by itself. And to get x by itself, we need to do the opposite of what is happening to it. Let me explain what I mean a little bit further. Right now, we are taking away 7 from x. We are subtracting 7. The opposite of subtracting 7 is adding 7. And that'll make it to where we have x plus 0. And we don't really write x plus 0, so x is just essentially going to be by itself. And that's what our goal was, to get the variable by itself. Now, if I do it to one side, I have to do it to the other. Our x drops down. We didn't do anything to it. It's going to just stay there. Negative 7 plus 7 is 0. So x equals negative 6 plus 7. Another way of looking at this is I had 7, I took 6 away, and now I only have 1 left. So my final answer is x equals 1. One thing I wanted to point out, I have over here that x is our variable, but I wanted to let you know that just because x, the letter x, is a common variable that is used in mathematics, does not mean it's the only variable. that we can use. You can actually use any letter for a variable. So the next step that I want you to do after you've solved is to check your work. The reason why you need to get into the habit of checking your work is so that later on when we have harder problems, you can have that habit. So please make sure that you check your work. And this is how you would do it. We take our original equation right here, x minus 7 equals negative 6. And we are going to rewrite this equation, except for everywhere that we see an x, we are going to put in a 1. We only have x in there one time since this is just a simple equation that we're solving for. So it would be 1 minus 7 equals negative 6. Solve the side that had the unknown variable. And if you get the same answer on both sides of the equation, then you did your answer, or you did your problem correctly. So it would be negative 6 equals negative 6, and you did your work correctly. We're going to look at one more example. In this example, you've noticed that the variable is not x, but we still do have a variable. G is our variable, and we need to isolate it, or we need to get G by itself. The addition property of equality tells us that if we add a number to one side of the equation, that we need to add it to the other side. To get G by itself, to isolate our variable, we need to do the opposite of what is happening to it. We are subtracting 2. The opposite of subtracting 2 is adding 2. If I do it to one side of the equation, I must do it to the other side. Because these are the ones we were trying to get rid of, they cancel out. Also, 2 minus 2 is just 0. Our G, our variable, gets rewritten down below. 4 plus 2 is 6. And so our final answer is G equals 6. Now we're going to check our work. Every time I see G, I'm going to put in a 6. So our original equation was G minus 2 equals 4. So 6 minus 2 should give me 4. And it does. So we know that G equals 6 is the correct answer.